Certainly the infrastructure needs all across the county are significant. We don't have the revenue right now to take care of all the infrastructure needs. The best thing that can happen is if we continue to grow our economy, if we continue to spur on economic development, economic growth, bring more wealth into our community. And what that does is bring in more tax dollars, which then provides the revenue to do the necessary work, not only in Pueblo West, but all over the county.
Tom?
I agree with Sal at one point on that. If the Pueblo West people want to incorporate and do what they want to do, that's their decision. They have to decide that. Some of the other issues, though, that were brought up, we're talking about, we want to have these increased businesses in town so we have more money to spend on things, and yet on infrastructure. And yet there's some legislation passed in the past where $365 million was taken out of the highway funds to use for new social programs. So the legislature, which my opponent was part of, could go back to us and say, we need a tax increase for more money for roads. Part of the problem with Pueblo West roads is years ago, the Metro Board made an agreement with the county commissioners. They would not accept their full amount of money that they were due. They needed a certain amount of money at that time, so they agreed to take a lower amount. That has never changed. Maybe they need to get back in, work with the county commissioners, and get their fair share.
Sal?
Yeah, I don't think that's a completely accurate statement. We've had a lot of good workings with Pueblo West in the last year. We approved a new chip seal agreement where Pueblo County is bringing resources to the table and to Pueblo West to work on the Pueblo West roads. If we talk about fair share, I'm a resident of the city of Pueblo, yet we don't spend county property tax on roads in the city of Pueblo. It's an unfortunate situation where their roads need a lot more work than we have revenue, but we are fighting hard. We are putting our effort in every single day to generate new highway dollars, not only for Pueblo West, but for the entire county. In fact, it's been $150 million worth of new highway dollars that are coming in for both I-25 and Highway 50 over the next couple of years that we worked on in Pueblo County.
Okay, Tom, you'll answer the next question first. The three county commissioners are Democrats, and they've been very active in the local Democratic Party for many years. Given that, do you feel that there are enough checks and balances among the current county commissioners?
Not at all. We've had a one-party system. We've had a one-party in control of county commissioners for as long as I can remember. I remember Jim Brewer was the only Republican that ever served on the county commissioner. We need some common sense. We need some balance in our county government. For too many years, one idea has always been pushed through from one side. We need a little clarity from the other side. No, I will only be one vote out of three, but at least it's a start. We need some fresh ideas.
Sal?
Well, I think if you saw some of our county commissioner meetings and some of the arguments we have, you'd see that there's no one puppet master in the sky from the Democratic Party controlling all three of us. I love my colleagues, but we don't see eye to eye on everything. I'm a Democrat, but I don't represent the Democratic Party as a county commissioner. I'm proud of the values that I have. They help inform me in my decision making, but the Democratic Party doesn't tell me what to do. The citizens of Pueblo tell me what to do.
Tom?
Well, if the citizens of Pueblo tell you what to do, why did you vote for higher increased costs of energy? A lot of the poor in our community cannot afford the rates that they're being charged. They have to decide, am I going to be able to eat this month, or do I pay my utility bills? These were caused by higher taxes that you and your party pushed through on the citizens of Pueblo.
Sal?
Well, Tom and I had a conversation in the back, and I said, we're going to stay positive, right? And he said, yeah, absolutely.
Facts are facts.
Well, if we want to talk about values, a couple weeks ago, I was disturbed by a link you posted on your Facebook page about an article claiming the Newtown Sandy Hook school shooting is a hoax perpetrated by the federal government to advance a gun control agenda. 26 people died that day, including Daniel Barden. And my cousin, who's a firefighter in Newtown, went to his funeral, gave an official firefighter funeral for Daniel. And I want to ask you, how can you possibly think that Sandy Hook was a hoax? And do you still stand by these offensive and morally reprehensible claims that you disseminated online? And what do you say to the first responders who saw the carnage, or the families like Daniel's who lost their angels?
There's still question about whether it really happened, Sal. Some of the people in the videos, thank you very much. If you recall, there was a picture of a man walking in whose daughter had died. He was smiling and joking. When he walked into the room, he turned and all of a sudden had tears in his eyes. Why? I question that. You saw these pictures, and you know, there's a lot of stuff that floats around Facebook. Whether it's all true or not, it's called an open discussion. Nothing wrong with an open discussion. I push a lot of things out there. Most of it's for open discussions.
Okay. Sal?
I have no response.
Okay. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please, I mean, even if we disagree very much, let's let them talk. You want to hear what they have to say. Sal, you'll answer this question first. Now that the dust has settled a bit, what is your take on the controversy involving emails between a former county official and several city council members?
You know, Greg Severance did some good work for the county. He was instrumental in some of the transportation funds that I mentioned previously, but what we did, we had to do. Mr. Severance needed to be fired. Because of the damage that he did to our community, because of the damage he did to the reputation of Pueblo. The whole thing is such a sad black eye to our community. But I think what's important now is to move on and start healing as a community.
I don't disagree with that. I think, you know, as serving on the Parks Board for 9.5 years, we went by the same rule that City Council have to: no closed-door meetings, no exchange of emails to come up with decisions like that. In our 9.5 years that I was on the Parks Board, we never had the issue. Part of it was we had some strong leadership. We had good attorneys that told us, don't go there. So I agree. It's something that's sad. It needs to move forward in our community, and we need to get over it and not repeat the same mistakes again.
Sal, any other thoughts on that topic?
No response.
Okay. We'll move on to the next question. Tom, you'll handle this one first. The Pueblo County Jail is overcrowded and it's aging badly. Is it possible for the county in the near future to build a new jail?
With the current receipts coming in, I doubt it. I have toured the jail a few months ago, and it is deplorable. There are places on a floor down from the top floor where the walls are rotting and rusting away. If you go into the women's section, there are 30 women that don't even have a bed. They sleep on the floor because there's no room for them. This is really sad, and as was discussed last night by Sheriff Taylor, maybe there's a possibility of housing these people elsewhere, maybe not putting those that are nonviolent people in the jail to help reduce the overcrowding. It is deplorable, it is awful, it needs a fix. I feel there's no money to do it. One day we may have to raise that issue and figure out where to do it. That's where we are.
I think it's obvious in the long term that we need to do something differently than what we're doing now. The jail is overcrowded. It is in poor condition, like Tom said. In the short term, the commissioners have been working with Sheriff Taylor. We have a community corrections staff person. We are working on building a program for alternatives to jail for the low-risk offenders. Sadly, there are a lot of folks with misdemeanors and unpaid fines who are really low risk who are put in jail, and we're looking to alternatives to that and building that program now. Sheriff Taylor thinks that can have an immediate impact of over 100 offenders a day, but we're still overcrowded at that case. In the long term, we have to do what we've done as a community in the past, and we have to make sure we find the funding and build a new building, because what we're doing now is just wrong.
I agree with that.
Okay. Any other comments, Tom?
No.
Okay. Let's see. Sal, you'll answer this one first. Do you have a plan for flood control on the Fountain Creek? And how do you intend to force Colorado Springs and El Paso County to meet their obligations under the 1041 regulations?
Well, the good news is that we do have 1041 permits in place that Colorado Springs has to adhere to. During the passage of the 1041 permits by the previous commissioners, Colorado Springs had stormwater programs in place, including a stormwater enterprise. That went away by the voters of Colorado Springs after the passage of the 1041 permit. It's our contention that Colorado Springs is obligated to meet those stormwater obligations that were in place at the time of the passage of the 1041 permit. And fortunately, as the permit holders, Pueblo County has the potential to hold their feet to the fire. Right now, Colorado Springs and El Paso County, they're working on a regional tax to address these concerns as they had promised to Pueblo. I'm hopeful that it's successful this November. As far as flood control, after seeing some of the flooding a couple years ago up north and the small detention ponds that were just wiped out, I think it's absolutely critical that we build a large flood control facility, a dam that can be used not only for flood control but also for recreation. I think a state park might be a good fit around a new dam, a new reservoir. And the good news is part of the mitigation for the Southern Delivery System is that there's $50 million that Colorado Springs has pledged already for stormwater, for flood control along the Fountain Creek. That's good seed money that can be used to leverage more money at the federal level. And I think it's critically important that we get this right because all of our kids are going to be dealing with the consequences.
Tom?
Well, I started working on this in 2006 as an individual. I'm on the Citizen Advisory Commission that works on the Fountain Creek. I know there's been a call for a big dam on the fountain like the Chatfield Dam, which I know a lot about being on the Parks Board. Start with, here's the problem with the big type dam. One, you're going to build it on marine shale. Marine shale has selenium in it. If you put water over the shale, then leaches out the selenium. That's one of the pollutants we're trying to get rid of. Another point, if you build a big dam, you have to move the interstate. You have to move the railroad.